You've had some great rehearsals. You and your cast are feeling good about the performances that you've started to craft. And now it's just a question of carrying that over to set. And the question is, how do you do that? Because set is hectic, it's crazy. You're going to be pulled in a lot of different directions beyond just working with actors. You're going to be pulled in directions having to do with camera and scheduling and lighting. So how do you work with your actors on set in such a way that you're still able to get those performances you're working towards, and so that they feel like they're not an afterthought, but still part of the process with you? So the first thing is to understand what your cast needs from you. They don't need every minute of your time when you're on set, but what they do need is quality time, right? So when you're having a discussion with your actors, when you're giving them a note, or when you're talking to them about what it is that you're going to be doing, your focus is on them. And all the other questions and all the other people that are waiting to ask you questions, they're just going to have to wait for a few moments. So that's the first thing, quality time. Another thing is you are going to help them with some of the technical aspects. And what I mean by that is, they're not behind a monitor, right? So when you're setting up a shot with them, you're going to need to tell them, oh, this is like a medium close-up, so we're seeing about this much of you. Because they're going to want to know, what sort of range do they have on camera to use their body? Should they be using their hands? Are they going to go off frame if they move this way or that? That kind of thing. So it's going to be up to you to help convey that to them. Also, you're shooting out of sequence. And so it's easy to get disoriented about where exactly the scene you're working on is in relationship to everything else. So context is going to be an important thing. You always being able to make sure that you can let them know where not just the scene that you're working on falls in the story, but also what's going on around it. Because in some cases you haven't even shot it yet, so they might not have they might not know for sure where they're at. So you can help them by giving them that context. Another thing that they're gonna value getting from you is some sort of sense of the overall schedule of the day, right? Yes, they've got a shooting schedule. Yes, they sort of have probably seen the scenes, but it's good to sort of talk through them with your cast and talk about not just what scenes you're going to be shooting, but also kind of how you're thinking of approaching it. Are you going to start with the master? Are you going to start close up? Basically what you're doing here is giving them a sense of how the day is going to go, and also helping them understand sort of what they have to be focused on first, so that they can kind of prioritize the work they're going to be doing to get ready to do a take. So those are the kinds of things your cast are sort of looking for and that you can be providing to them. Now, when it comes to actually shooting, there's some things to keep in mind. The first thing I would say is you're always going to want to do a full walkthrough of the scene, regardless of what coverage you'll be shooting first. So even if you know that the first thing you're going to shoot is a close-up that's only 3 of the lines in the scene, walk through everything with your cast. We talked about why that's important on the crew side, so that people can see what's going on and department heads can be thinking about what they need to do. It's equally important for you and the actors, because in a lot of cases it's going to be the first time that you're actually in the physical space where the scene takes place, as opposed to just sort of miming it. And things can come out of that. It also allows the actors to sort of go through the emotions all the way through once, so then it's easier to pick and choose which sort of emotional beats they're hitting as you do the coverage. And it is a great opportunity to see if there's anything that you are going to want to tweak before you even start rolling. So you're always going to start with a walkthrough when it comes to the actual shooting. When you're actually rolling, you'll do a take, and obviously there's generally going to be notes that you're going to have. So the question is, how do you give notes in a way that is effective, that doesn't overwhelm, and that gets you the performance that you want and keeps things moving? So the first thing I would say is that there are 2 kinds of notes, and it's important to understand the difference. There are technical notes and there are performance notes. Technical notes just have to do not with an actor's performance per se, but things that have to change in order for the camera, for the lighting, to sort of do their thing correctly, right? So it might be as simple as saying you're doing a dolly shot and you've got to say to the actor, I'm so sorry, the dolly is just sort of getting to you, getting a little bit ahead of you. Can you walk a little bit faster? That's a technical note. Now, it's important to tell them that it's a technical note, because if you just said, could you walk a little bit faster, they may interpret that as, with more urgency. Your character is more urgent in this scene or something like that. And it might really not be that at all. They're playing the scene perfectly fine. It's just that this technical thing has to be addressed. So those are technical notes. Performance notes are obviously notes that are about the performance. And with these, there's a couple things you can do. First and foremost, it's good to not throw a ton of performance notes at an actor at once. It is often much easier to give them one specific performance note to deal with in a take, and then see what happens and just sort of build your way from there. Often, that one performance note, when they address that, some of the other smaller things will kind of go along with it, because often all of this stuff is really interrelated. So that's the first thing. Don't throw a ton of notes at your actor all at once. The other thing is, if it's a note that applies just to one of the characters in the scene, when possible, it's really great to give that note just to them. There's two reasons for this. One, it doesn't convey the idea, constructive or not, of them being critiqued in front of a whole bunch of people. The other thing is that if it's going to adjust their performance, then you're preserving the ability of the other actor to react to that adjustment sort of genuinely. In other words, they don't know what the first actor is going to tweak, and therefore the reaction to it is a more genuine one. Now, obviously, when it's a note that applies to both of them that has to do, say, with how they're interacting, obviously you're going to give that to them together. Another important thing is that unless it's really not possible because you're set up behind a monitor really far away from where they are, always give the notes face-to-face with your actors, not from behind the camera. This is honestly, it's just a respect thing more than anything else. You want to keep that trust going, and you want to keep that sense of intimacy and it being between you and your cast. And again, not that you're sort of shouting notes sort of across everybody for everybody to hear, because that's not what it's about. It's about you and them. And lastly, always make sure that the notes are constructive and positive. Yes, you may be asking them to change something because you didn't like what they were doing, but production is hectic. It can be tension-filled, and again, most importantly, these actors are putting themselves sort of out there. It is always better to start from a place of positivity. You will get much, much better results. Now, one of the tools you have to help you remember what some of these notes might be beyond just seeing it is, remember, you've got your director's notebook, and during rehearsal you were jotting things down, hopefully. So when on set, if something isn't the way that it was in rehearsal, look at those prompts that you made for yourself. Often you can just remind your cast member, oh, remember, we were talking about it being this way. It'll jog their memory, and that's all you'll have to do. One last thing about working with your actors on set, pick and choose where you're going to really spend time. If you're having trouble getting a performance just right, but it's in the wide shot and you are getting close to ready to move on, go ahead and move on and fine-tune it in those other shots. Just as with other elements of your production, you gotta sort of time your resources and allocate your energy where it's going to serve you the best. So your to-do for this section, grab your director's notebook, look over all the notes from your rehearsal process, and make sure that you're ready when you're on set with your actors to keep communicating with them and getting the performances you need.